The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with excitement. Hundreds of alien species gathered, their eyes glowing with curiosity as they examined the latest weapons displayed across the massive arena. It was the annual weapons exhibition, a grand event where the most advanced civilizations showed off their latest war technology. The air hummed with energy as plasma rifles, gravity cannons, and quantum disruptors were tested for the crowd. In the middle of the hall, standing beside a small table, was Captain Dale, the human representative. Unlike the others, he had brought only one item. It was not a glowing energy weapon, nor did it look powerful. It was a simple, ancient human revolver. The metal shone under the bright lights, its wooden grip polished smooth from years of use. The crowd of aliens stared at the small object in confusion. Then the laughter started. Ha! Is this a joke? A tall Zelvarian warrior laughed loudly, his sharp teeth glinting. The Zelvarians were a proud and powerful race, known for their advanced plasma weapons. This is not a weapon. This is a toy. Others joined in, chuckling and whispering among themselves. The humans were a young species in the galactic community, and many still considered them primitive. Seeing an old, outdated gun only confirmed their beliefs. A blue-skinned scientist from the Zulfar race shook his head. That thing does not even use energy. How does it fire? Steam. Magic. The aliens laughed again. Dale remained calm. He had expected this reaction. Humans had joined the Galactic Council only a few years ago, and most advanced species still did not take them seriously. They had powerful ships, yes, but their weapons seemed outdated compared to energy-based technology. Commander Strax, the leader of the Zelvarian military, stepped forward. He was tall, his armored suit covered in glowing energy lines. His species had ruled over many planets, and their weapons were considered the best in the galaxy. He smirked at Dale. "Human," Strax said, crossing his arms. "We came here to see innovation, not history. That thing you brought is older than some of the species here. Why bring such an ancient tool?" Dale smiled. "Because sometimes old things still work." More laughter. The aliens thought it was just human pride. They could not believe that something so simple could have any real value. Strax raised his hand to silence the crowd. "Very well. If you believe this weapon is still useful, why don't you prove it?" Dale's smile widened. "I'd be happy to." The Zelvarian commander turned to his officers and gave an order. The arena's main testing area activated, and a large glowing shield formed in the middle. It was a demonstration of Zelvarian technology, a barrier that could stop all energy-based weapons. Plasma rifles, laser cannons, even ion beams, all were useless against it. The Zelvarians had designed it to be the ultimate defense. Strax gestured to the shield. "If your weapon can pass through this, we will consider it worthy." Dale stepped forward, drawing the revolver from its holster. The metal was cool in his hand, the weight familiar. He had trained with this weapon for years. The aliens watched with interest, but most of them had already decided that the human would fail. A few whispered to each other, placing bets on how quickly Dale would be embarrassed. Taking a deep breath, Dale aimed at the target behind the shield. His finger tightened on the trigger. For a moment, there was silence. Then, bang! The loud explosion echoed through the hall, making several aliens jump. The revolver released a small puff of smoke, and the bullet shot forward, moving too fast for the eye to follow. A second later, a sharp metallic clang filled the air. The bullet had passed through the shield like it was nothing and struck the target behind it, leaving a deep dent in the metal. The arena fell silent. Strax's confident smirk disappeared. His eyes widened as he stared at the target, then at the shield, then back at Dale. Other aliens leaned forward, whispering in disbelief. The Zelvarian commander turned to his scientists. "How is this possible? Our shields stop all energy-based weapons." A nervous Zulfar scientist examined the readings, his fingers shaking. "But it's not an energy weapon, sir. It doesn't use power fields or plasma waves. It's just a physical projectile. Realization hit the crowd like a shockwave. The shield was designed to stop energy blasts. But this human weapon didn't rely on energy at all. It simply used old-fashioned physics, gunpowder, pressure, and a metal bullet. Dale lowered his revolver, his expression calm. Like I said, old things still work. The laughter was gone now. The aliens stared at the human weapon with new eyes. And for the first time, a quiet sense of fear crept into their minds. What else had humanity been hiding? A heavy silence filled the Galactic Council's weapons arena. Just moments ago, the hall had been full of laughter and mockery. Now, every alien in the room stood frozen, eyes locked on the human's strange weapon. Commander Zitrax clenched his jaw, his mind racing. The impossible had just happened. The human revolver, an ancient weapon powered by simple mechanics, had pierced through the Selvarian energy shield, something no plasma or laser weapon had ever done. Dale calmly spun the revolver around his finger before sliding it back into its holster. His expression remained neutral, but inside, he was amused. Humans had been underestimated again, and he loved seeing the moment when that mistake became clear. A Zelfer scientist nervously tapped his tablet, analyzing the readings. His blue skin paled as he stuttered. This does not make sense. The shield was designed to stop all forms of energy projectiles. Plasma, ion beams, photon bursts, none can pass through. Dale nodded, his tone calm but firm. That's because this isn't an energy weapon. It doesn't rely on any kind of power field or advanced technology. It's just physics. A murmur spread through the crowd. Many aliens had never even considered such a weapon before. The Galactic Council had always focused on energy-based combat, believing that physical weapons were obsolete. Now, that belief had been shattered. Strax finally spoke, his voice low and serious. "Explain." Dale took out the revolver again and held it up for all to see. "This is a firearm. It uses gunpowder to create an explosion inside this metal chamber." He pointed at the cylinder. That explosion forces a metal projectile out of the barrel at high speed. No energy beams, no power cells, just raw force. The audience listened carefully. Some still looked doubtful, but others were starting to realize the importance of what had just happened. A reptilian alien from the Vorkath species leaned forward. "But energy dampeners are useless against it." Dale nodded. "Exactly. Your shields are made to counter energy-based attacks. They absorb or deflect plasma, ion, or laser shots. But a solid metal bullet, it doesn't have energy that the shield can block. It just keeps moving forward, right through it." Zitrax frowned. He did not like this revelation. If this is true, why don't more species use such weapons? Dale smirked. Because most civilizations advanced straight to energy weapons. You skipped the basics. Humans, on the other hand, mastered ballistics first. We refined it for centuries before moving to more advanced technology. He paused, then added, "And as you just saw, sometimes the old ways still have value." A tense silence followed. The Selvarians, who prided themselves on having the best weapons in the galaxy, now faced the reality that their technology had a serious weakness. A short, green-skinned alien from the Nixian race raised a hand. Wait. Does this mean humans still use these weapons?" Dale chuckled. "Not really. We have more advanced weapons now. Railguns, kinetic cannons, smart projectiles. But the principles remain the same." He tapped the revolver. "This is just a piece of history, a reminder that brute force can still work." Strax's mind was in turmoil. He had dismissed humanity as a minor power, but now he realized how wrong that was. If this simple weapon could bypass their shields, what else could human technology do? He took a deep breath and turned to his officers. "Bring me a plasma rifle." A soldier quickly handed him a sleek Zelvarian rifle, glowing with green energy. Strax set it to full power and aimed at the same target Dale had shot. The energy shield was still active. With a hiss, The plasma bolt fired, only to vanish as it struck the shield. The energy was absorbed instantly. The target remained untouched. The audience muttered in realization. The Xelvarian weapon, one of the most powerful in the galaxy, had failed where a simple human gun had succeeded. Strax lowered the rifle, his expression unreadable. "I see." Dale smiled. "Do you still think my weapon is just a toy?" The commander remained silent, but his claws tightened around the rifle. The rest of the council members were deep in discussion now. If human weapons could ignore energy shields, what did that mean for galactic warfare? Were the Xelvarians really as powerful as they claimed? Did humans have even deadlier weapons they hadn't revealed? Dale saw the growing concern in their faces. He had made his point. Humanity was not to be underestimated. He holstered his revolver once more and turned to leave the arena. As he walked away, he heard whispers spreading through the crowd. For the first time, the galaxy was starting to fear humanity, and that was exactly what he wanted. The arena remained silent long after Dale had fired his revolver. The shot had been loud, but its impact on the Galactic Council was even louder. Whispers spread like wildfire as aliens debated what they had just witnessed. Some still struggled to believe it, while others were already trying to understand how such a simple weapon had succeeded where their advanced technology had failed. Commander Strax stood motionless, his sharp eyes locked on the human. He was not a scientist, but he knew enough about warfare to realize that this demonstration had changed everything. If human bullets could ignore energy shields, then the Xelvarian military had a weakness they never knew existed. One of the Xelvarian scientists, a tall alien with shimmering purple skin, stepped forward. His voice was steady but laced with concern. "Human, explain to us. How does this weapon work? How can a simple piece of metal defeat our most advanced shield technology?" Dale looked around. Every alien in the room was now paying full attention to him. An hour ago, they had laughed at his weapon. Now, they were listening carefully, eager to learn. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a bullet. Holding it up between his fingers, he began to speak. "This is a bullet. It's nothing fancy, just a small piece of metal with gunpowder inside. When I pull the trigger, the gunpowder ignites, creating an explosion that pushes the bullet out of the barrel at high speed. There's no energy field, no plasma, no complex mechanics, just controlled force." A reptilian alien from the Vorkath race blinked his yellow eyes in confusion. "But how does it move so fast?" Dale shrugged. "Simple physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. The explosion provides the force. The bullet has mass, and together they create high-speed movement." The Zelfar scientist who had been analyzing the shield's data nodded slowly. "And because the bullet is just a solid object, the energy shield doesn't recognize it as a threat." "Exactly," Dale confirmed. "Your shields are designed to block energy-based attacks. Plasma, laser, ion bursts. Those attacks have energy signatures that the shield detects and neutralizes. But my bullet has no energy signature. It's just a piece of fast-moving metal. The shield doesn't even know it exists." Murmurs of understanding spread through the crowd. A short, green-skinned Nixian scientist narrowed his eyes. "But if that is true, doesn't that mean all our energy-based defenses are useless against such weapons?" Dale smiled, but there was no humor in it. "That depends. How many of your armies rely entirely on energy weapons?" The sudden realization hit the council like a shockwave. Every military force in the galaxy had moved toward energy-based combat. Kinetic weapons, solid projectiles, had been abandoned centuries ago in favor of more advanced plasma and laser technology. No one had ever considered that a simple ancient weapon could bypass their strongest defenses. Commander Strax's face darkened. "Are you telling me that humanity still uses these weapons in war?" Dale shrugged again. "Not exactly. We have better weapons now. Railguns, coilguns, mass drivers. The revolver is just an old relic. I brought it to prove a point." He tapped the holster at his side. And I think that point has been made. Strax remained silent. His mind was working through the implications. If humanity had already moved beyond simple firearms, what kind of weapons did they possess now? Were human ships equipped with kinetic cannons? Could their armies fire projectiles that ignored Salvarian shields? A cold realization settled over the room. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted. The Zulfar scientist adjusted his glasses, his voice quieter now. Human, I have one last question. If your kind no longer uses these weapons, why do you still carry one? Dale smiled and patted his revolver. Because sometimes, the old ways still work. With that, he turned and walked toward the exit, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. For the first time in history, the advanced civilizations of the galaxy feared something not because it was new, but because it was old. Commander Strax sat in silence, his mind racing. The demonstration had shaken the entire Galactic Council, but for the Salvarians, it was worse than that. It was an insult. They'd prided themselves on having the most powerful military in the galaxy. Their shields were considered unbreakable, their plasma weapons unmatched. And yet, a human with an old weapon had proven them wrong. He clenched his fists. No, this could not be the end of it. He needed to prove that human weapons were still useless compared to Salvarian technology. He needed to challenge Dale directly. The murmurs in the hall had grown louder. Aliens from various species discussed the implications of the human weapon, some with fear, others with curiosity. The balance of power was shifting, and no one knew what it meant. Strax finally stood, his voice booming across the room. Human, if your weapon is truly as powerful as you claim, let's settle this with a real test. The hall fell silent once more. All eyes turned to Dale, who paused at the exit. He turned back, raising an eyebrow. A test. Strax smirked. Yes, a challenge. You say your primitive technology is still useful. Prove it. We will set up a proper battlefield simulation. My best soldiers will face you, using Salvarian energy weapons. You will use your gun. Several aliens gasped. Was the commander truly suggesting a combat challenge? Dale crossed his arms, pretending to consider the offer. And what are the rules? Strax grinned, confident that he would regain control of the situation. You will face 3 Salvarian warriors. We will activate an energy dampening field, so no energy weapons will function. Your revolver against my warriors' physical combat skills. Let's see how well your ancient technology works in a real fight. The crowd murmured. Some were excited, others unsure. This was dangerous. The Salvarians were much larger and stronger than humans. They were trained warriors, skilled in hand-to-hand combat. Even if the revolver worked against shields, could it defeat moving targets in a fight? Dale smirked. All right, I accept. A few aliens whispered in shock. Was the human insane? Strax's grin widened. He had expected Dale to refuse. Instead, the human had walked straight into his trap. Good, the commander said. The challenge will take place in 1 hour. Prepare yourself. The battlefield is set. The galactic arena was transformed into a combat simulation chamber. The walls shimmered with holographic projectors, creating an artificial battlefield with obstacles, cover points, and strategic positions. The energy dampening field was activated, ensuring that no plasma or energy weapons could function inside. At one end of the battlefield, 3 Salvarian warriors stood ready. They were massive, each nearly 7 feet tall, covered in heavy armor. Their claws were sharp, and their muscles tensed with anticipation. Without energy weapons, they would rely on their speed, strength, and advanced physical combat training. At the other end, Dale stood alone. He had removed his coat, revealing a simple military uniform. His revolver rested in his holster, his hands relaxed at his sides. The audience watched from above, their seats floating around the arena. Every alien was focused on the battlefield below. Some whispered that the human had made a mistake. Others wondered if he had a secret strategy. Trax stood on a high platform, his arms crossed. "The rules are simple," he announced. "The fight continues until one side is completely eliminated. Begin." The first move. The three Selvarian warriors spread out, moving like trained hunters. They had studied human combat techniques. They knew that humans relied on speed and agility, but against a Selvarian's natural strength, those wouldn't be enough. One of the warriors charged straight at Dale, closing the distance fast. His claws were ready to strike. Dale didn't move. Not yet. The warrior lunged. Bang! A single shot echoed through the arena. The Selvarian warrior stopped mid-charge, his body jerking backward. A round metal bullet had struck his chest armor, denting it deeply. The force of the impact knocked him off balance, and he stumbled to the ground. The crowd gasped. No energy weapon would have had such an effect against Selvarian armor, but the human's bullet had hit with pure, concentrated force. Dale adjusted his aim slightly. "One down," he said casually. The two remaining Selvarians hesitated. They had underestimated the human. Now they knew. His weapon wasn't just for show. Strax clenched his jaw. He had expected the human to struggle, but Dale had taken down one of his best soldiers with a single shot. The second warrior rushed in from the side, trying to use speed to his advantage. Dale turned, his revolver steady. Bang! Another shot. Another direct hit. The second warrior's shoulder armor cracked, and he collapsed, groaning in pain. Now, only one remained. The final Selvarian hesitated. His training told him to attack, but fear crept into his mind. The human wasn't just surviving, he was winning. Dale took a step forward, aiming at the last warrior. "You can surrender," he offered. The warrior growled, his pride refusing to accept defeat. He lunged. Bang! A precise shot struck his leg. He crashed to the ground. Victory. Silence filled the arena. The fight was over. Dale stood, revolver still smoking. The three Selvarian warriors lay on the ground, defeated. Strax's fists tightened, his best soldiers taken down in seconds, by a single human. Dale spun the revolver around his finger and holstered it. Like I said, old things still work. The crowd erupted into stunned murmurs. The Galactic Council had witnessed something impossible. And now, every alien leader in the room realized something terrifying. Humanity wasn't just unpredictable. They were dangerous. The galactic arena was silent. Every alien in the audience had just witnessed something they could not believe. One human, using an old weapon, had defeated three of the strongest Selvarian warriors in seconds. Dale stood calmly, his revolver back in its holster. The Selvarian warriors were being helped off the battlefield, their armor dented, their pride shattered. They had trained for years, mastering advanced combat techniques, but they had been powerless against a simple human firearm. Commander Trax clenched his fists. His warriors had been humiliated, and his military's reputation was now in danger. The Selvarians had always been respected as the most powerful species in the galaxy, but today a human had made them look weak. The council members sitting above the arena whispered among themselves. The shock on their faces was clear. Some looked at Dale with curiosity, others with fear. A blue-skinned Zelfar scientist adjusted his glasses, his voice trembling as he spoke. How is this possible? We have studied human technology before. Their energy weapons are not much different from ours. But this was something else. An insectoid diplomat from the Krygak species clicked its mandibles. Not something else. Something old. A weapon from their past. Strax took a deep breath and stepped forward. His voice was calm, but there was anger behind it. Human, you have made your point. Your weapon is effective. But tell me, why? Why does your species still keep such outdated technology? You have energy weapons like the rest of us. Why carry this relic? Dale smirked. He had been waiting for this question. He looked around the arena, making sure every council member was listening. Then he spoke. Because humans don't forget. The words echoed through the chamber. Some aliens leaned forward, curious. Dale continued, his voice steady. Other species move forward and leave their past behind. When new technology appears, they abandon the old. But humans, we remember everything. We learn from our history. We improve what works and keep it close, just in case we need it again. He tapped the handle of his revolver. This gun is over 1,000 years old. In that time, energy weapons have come and gone. Shields have been built, upgraded, and replaced. But this, he pulled out a bullet and held it up. This still works. It worked 1,000 years ago. It works today. And it will still work 1,000 years from now. The hall was dead silent. Even Strax had no response. Dale took a step closer, his expression serious. You all laughed when you saw this weapon. You thought it was a joke. And now, he gestured to the defeated Selvarian warriors. Now you're wondering what else humanity has been keeping from you. A cold realization spread through the council. That Selvarians had always been the dominant military power in the galaxy. But now, for the first time, they saw a weakness in their own strength. They had relied too much on energy-based technology. Their entire military was built around plasma weapons and energy shields. And if those shields were useless against simple human firearms, what other secrets did humanity have? A tall, silver-skinned alien from the Vayari race spoke, his voice quiet. Tell us, human, what weapons does your species truly use? Dale smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. You've seen an old gun. Do you really want to know what our modern weapons can do? The room grew colder. The council members glanced at each other, unsure if they wanted the answer. Strax's hands tightened into fists. He hated this. He hated that a single human had made the entire council nervous. But deep down, even he knew the truth. This demonstration had changed everything. Dale holstered his revolver and looked around. This is the lesson, gentlemen. Never assume that just because something is old, it is useless. And never assume that just because humanity is new to the galactic stage, we are weak. With that, he turned and walked toward the exit. The Galactic Council remained silent, watching him go. For the first time in history, they did not see humans as just another species. They saw them as a threat. Dale walked out of the arena with steady steps, but he could feel the weight of 100 alien eyes on his back. The Galactic Council was shaken. Their strongest warriors had fallen, their technology had been questioned, and their assumptions about humanity had been shattered. Good. Dale never enjoyed being underestimated, but he enjoyed proving people wrong. He had done what he came here to do. Show the galaxy that humans were not weak, that they were not to be ignored. As he exited the arena, a familiar voice called out behind him. Human, wait. Dale turned to see the Zelfar scientist hurrying toward him. The blue-skinned alien adjusted his glasses and took a deep breath before speaking. My name is Varlo. I need to speak with you. Dale raised an eyebrow. About what? Varlo hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. Then he leaned in slightly. About what your people are truly capable of. Dale crossed his arms. You saw it for yourself back there. Varlo shook his head. No, I saw an old weapon. An impressive one, yes, but still old. What I want to know is what you didn't show us. Dale chuckled. And why do you think I didn't show everything? Varlo gave him a knowing look. Because no species with interstellar travel still relies on gunpowder weapons. Your people have moved far beyond that. That was just a message. A warning. Dale didn't answer. He simply waited, watching the alien carefully. Varlo sighed. Listen, I'm a scientist, not a politician. I don't care about power struggles. I care about knowledge. And right now, I know that humanity has technology that the rest of the galaxy has never seen. He adjusted his glasses again. The Council is afraid, Dale. But I am curious. Dale smirked. Curiosity can be dangerous. Varlo gave a small smile. So can ignorance. The two stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Dale spoke. All right, Varlo. You want to know the truth. The Zelfer nodded eagerly. Dale pulled a small device from his pocket. It was round, metallic, and fit in the palm of his hand. He tossed it into the air casually before catching it again. This is a bullet, he said, not the old kind. A modern one. The kind humanity actually uses. Varlo leaned in, fascinated. What does it do? Dale smiled. It learns. Before the scientist could ask what that meant, Dale pressed a small button on the device. The bullet's surface shifted slightly, almost like it was alive. It hummed softly, glowing with a faint blue light. This is a smart round, Dale explained. Unlike my revolver's bullet, this one doesn't just fly in a straight line. It adjusts mid-air. It can track its target. It can even change direction if needed. Varlo's eyes widened. That shouldn't be possible. Dale shrugged. And yet, here it is. The scientist was speechless. A weapon like that would be unstoppable in battle. Energy shields wouldn't work. Dodging wouldn't work. The only way to survive would be to never be targeted in the first place. Varlo swallowed hard. How many of these do humans have? Dale chuckled. Enough. The Zelfer took a deep breath, trying to process everything. And the rest of the Council, they don't know about this. Dale shook his head. No. And they won't. Not yet. Varlo frowned. Why not? Dale's expression grew serious. Because right now, they fear us just enough to respect us. But if they knew the full truth, they wouldn't fear us. He leaned in slightly. They would panic. Varlo understood immediately. If the Council realized just how advanced human weapons truly were, they might do something reckless. Some species would try to ally with humanity. Others would try to destroy them before it was too late. Dale pocketed the smart round and took a step back. The galaxy isn't ready for the truth yet, but one day they will be. Varlo hesitated, then finally nodded. I understand. Dale gave him a small nod before turning to leave. Good. Let's hope the rest of the galaxy learns that lesson too, before it's too late. As he walked away, Varlo remained standing there, deep in thought. The scientist had come looking for answers. And now, he realized, he had found something much bigger. The Galactic Council chamber was unusually quiet. The usual debates and political arguments were absent. Instead, every representative sat in deep thought, their expressions serious. The events of the arena had shaken them all. Commander Zitrax stood near the center, his arms crossed, his mind replaying the battle over and over. He had been so sure that the human would lose. And yet Dale had not only won, he had done so effortlessly. A green-skinned Nixian delegate finally broke the silence. This is a problem. The insectoid Kryvax diplomat clicked its mandibles. A problem. This is a disaster. We thought humans were just another young race, but they have hidden their true strength. If they have weapons that can ignore our shields, what else are they hiding? A reptilian Vorketh senator leaned forward. The real question is, what do we do about it? The council members looked at each other, unsure. The Vayari representative, a tall, silver-skinned being, spoke next. Attacking them is not an option. We don't even know the full extent of their technology. If we push them into a war, we may find out the hard way. Zitrax clenched his fists. Then what do you suggest? That we sit back and let them grow stronger. Varlo, the Zelfer scientist, cleared his throat. Maybe that's exactly what we should do. All eyes turned to him. Zitrax narrowed his gaze. Explain. Varlo adjusted his glasses. We now know that humanity is far more advanced than we thought. But despite that, they have never used this power against us. They could have revealed these weapons earlier, but they didn't. That tells us something important. The Nixian scoffed. And what is that? Varlo met his gaze. That humans are not looking for war. A silence fell over the room. Varlo continued, think about it. If humanity truly wanted to conquer the galaxy, they wouldn't have waited until today to show their strength. They had every opportunity to flex their power before joining the council, but they chose to stay quiet. They chose peace. Some nodded in agreement, but Trax was not convinced, or perhaps they were waiting for the right moment to strike. Varlo sighed. Commander, let me ask you this. If you had a weapon capable of overwhelming your enemies, would you wait until you were surrounded by them to reveal it? Or would you strike first? Trax remained silent. He didn't like the answer, but he knew it was true. A species preparing for war would never have waited so long to show its power. The Vayari representative spoke again. Then the best course of action is clear. We must not treat humans as enemies. The insectoid Kryvax still seemed unsure. But if they continue to grow stronger, what happens in the future? What if they decide they no longer need us? Varlo gave a small smile. Then we make sure they do need us. The council leaned in, listening closely. Varlo explained, instead of pushing them away or fearing them, we should bring them closer. We should strengthen our alliances, increase trade, and share knowledge. The more we work together, the less likely they will ever see us as enemies. The room was silent, as everyone considered his words. Finally, the Nixian delegate let out a slow breath. It's a risk, but pushing them away is an even bigger risk. The Vorkath senator nodded. Then we must act carefully. We will continue observing humanity. But for now, we treat them as allies. Strax scowled. He did not like this plan. He did not like humans having this much power, but for now, he had no better option. He sighed. Very well, but mark my words, if they ever show signs of aggression, we must be ready. Varlo adjusted his glasses again. Then let's hope they never give us a reason. With that, the council meeting ended, but even as they made their decision, one thought lingered in every mind. Had they just secured peace, or delayed the inevitable? Dale leaned against the metal railing of a high balcony, staring at the endless cityscape of the galactic capital. Towering structures stretched far into the sky, their lights twinkling like stars. Flying vehicles zoomed between them, carrying aliens of every species. He took a deep breath. The demonstration had gone exactly as he had hoped, but he knew the battle wasn't over yet. The council feared humanity now. That fear could lead to respect, or something worse. Footsteps approached from behind. He didn't turn. I figured you'd find me, Varlo. The Zelfer scientist stepped beside him, adjusting his glasses. I assume you already know why I'm here. Dale smirked. Let me guess. The council had a meeting, and now they don't know whether to make us their best friends or their worst enemies. Varlo sighed. You're not wrong. Dale finally turned to face him. And what's your opinion? The scientist hesitated. I think that humanity is far more dangerous than we ever imagined. But I also think you don't want war. Dale gave a slow nod. That's right. But if someone brings a war to us, we won't hold back. Varlo swallowed hard. He had expected that answer. That's what worries them the most. The two stood in silence for a moment, watching the city below. Finally, Varlo spoke again. There's something you should know, Dale. Not all council members agree with keeping humans as allies. Dale wasn't surprised. Let me guess. Trax? Varlo nodded. And a few others. They believe that the only way to ensure humanity never becomes a threat is to weaken you before you grow too strong. Dale's expression didn't change, but Varlo saw the shift in his eyes, a quiet understanding, a realization that trouble was coming. Varlo took a deep breath. I don't know when or how, but I believe some factions will try to act against humanity soon. It may be political pressure, it may be sabotage, or it may be something worse. Dale exhaled slowly, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out his old revolver, spinning it lazily in his fingers before stopping it with his palm. "Well, Varlo, I appreciate the warning." The scientist frowned. "That's all. No concern. No plan." Dale smirked. "Oh, I have a plan. The same one I had before coming here." Varlo raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" Dale holstered his revolver and met his gaze. "To remind them, one last time, why picking a fight with humans is a bad idea." Varlo hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Be careful, Dale. You may have won the first battle, but the real game is just beginning." Dale chuckled. "Good. I do love a good game." As Varlo left, Dale turned back to the cityscape, his expression calm. He knew what was coming, and he was ready for it. Dale stood in the middle of a vast hall, a place usually reserved for high-ranking officials and powerful leaders. But today, it was occupied by something far more dangerous: secrecy. Across from him stood Commander Strax, flanked by several other aliens. Some were military officers, others were political figures who had remained silent during the council meeting. Now, in this private gathering, they were free to speak their true thoughts. Strax's sharp eyes locked onto Dale. "You should have left when you had the chance, human." Dale smirked. "And miss all the fun." "Not a chance." One of the alien diplomats, a Kryvax with dark red markings on its chitinous body, spoke next. "Your demonstration in the arena has made many nervous, Dale. The Council may have chosen peace, but some of us believe that allowing humanity to grow unchecked is a mistake." Dale casually adjusted his jacket. "And let me guess, you're here to fix that mistake." Strax's voice was firm. "We are offering you a choice. Either humanity agrees to limit its military development and submit its weapons for study, or we take action against you." Dale chuckled. "Let me get this straight. You saw what a 1,000-year-old weapon did to your best warriors, and you think threatening humanity is a good idea." A murmur ran through the group. Some of them were second-guessing their decision, but Strax remained firm. "We outnumber you. We have allies, fleets, and resources beyond what Earth could ever dream of. If you force our hand, humanity will not survive." Dale sighed. "You still don't get it, do you?" He reached into his pocket, and every alien in the room tensed. But instead of drawing a weapon, Dale pulled out a small data chip. He held it up between two fingers. "This contains a simple file, a short message from one of Earth's many historical records." Strax frowned. "What message?" Dale tossed the chip onto the table. "Play it." One of the aliens hesitated, then inserted the chip into a holographic projector. A video appeared, showing an old black-and-white recording. The image was grainy, the voices slightly distorted, but the message was clear. A human general stood in front of a group of soldiers. His uniform was old, from a time long before space travel, but his words carried the weight of history. "If you seek peace, prepare for war." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Dale stepped forward. Humanity didn't become strong by accident. We didn't survive our own wars, our own disasters, by being weak. Every time someone tried to destroy us, we came back stronger. Every time someone thought we were finished, we proved them wrong. His voice remained calm, but the weight of his words pressed down on the aliens like a force of gravity. "You think your fleets and your armies can scare us. You think we'll roll over just because you demand it." Dale shook his head. "If you start a war with humanity, it won't be like anything you've ever seen. You won't be fighting just an army. You'll be fighting an entire species that refuses to lose." Strax's jaw tightened. "Are you saying you want war?" Dale met his gaze, unflinching. "No, I'm saying you don't want war with us." The room remained silent for several moments. Some of the aliens shifted uncomfortably. Others exchanged uneasy glances. Finally, The Kryvax diplomat clicked its mandibles. You are willing to fight an entire galactic alliance. Dale shrugged. I'm saying you don't want to find out if we are. Cetrax stared at him for a long moment. Then, without a word, he turned and walked toward the exit. The others followed. Before leaving, the Vayari representative paused. I hope the council makes the right decision. Dale smirked. They usually do, after we remind them why they should. The door closed behind them, leaving Dale alone. He exhaled and looked out the window at the stars. Humanity had won this battle, but the galaxy had just learned a lesson it would never forget. The humans were here to stay.